Welcome back to another episode of the Even Year Dynasty Show. On today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the shortstop competition in San Francisco, take a look at it, and I'm going to give kind of my thoughts on how I think the entire thing is going to play out. I see kind of two scenarios with this, and then a third that's a little less likely, but we're going to look at what the four guys that seem to be competing for the starting shortstop position have done so far, which there is a clear leader in the clubhouse at this moment, and then kind of talk about going forward because we do still have about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks until the start of the regular season. So a lot of time left. There's only been 9 games, I believe, or 10 games. Nobody has won or lost this job yet. There's a lot that can happen in the next 3.5 weeks. So, kind of starting off with how each guy has performed. The very clear leader is kind of the late addition, non-roster invite, the one guy that's not on the 40 man, and that's Nick Ahmed. Um, so only had 8 at bats. He's 5 for 8 with 2 home runs, and all reports out of there is he still looks as good as he always has at shortstop defensively. And that's kind of the one big clear advantage he's going to have is he's a very good defensive shortstop, and him and Chapman on the left side could be, and Tyro Estrada up the middle. I don't want to discount him because he's also an excellent defender now. That could be a really, really elite defensive group. Marco Luciano, a lot of people expected him to be the starter going to the year. All the comments they've made have been that he is going to have every opportunity to be the starter. He has struggled thus far, 0 for 9, 5 Ks, and 2 walks. Casey Schmidt, also 0 for 9, only 2 strikeouts. Has hit the ball hard a few times. I know, namely, he had 106 mile an hour exit velocity line out to center field. So a little bit of bad luck there, but at the end of the day, you're 0 for spring. You're not swinging it well, no matter what. No matter what you're thinking there. Tyler Fitzgerald has had the biggest run so far. 3 for 16, a home run, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts, and a stolen base. So he's had 20 plate appearances. He's played in the most games. He's had the most runway thus far, but kind of a mixed bag with him. The home run was a grand slam in one of the first games of spring. So big swing of the bat there. He's kind of showcased a little bit what he can bring, but not nothing eye popping yet for him. So now that we kind of know what each guy has done and where everything stands at the moment, I see kind of two likely scenarios. Barring the third scenario that is very unlikely, it would be probably either Casey Schmidt or Tyler Fitzgerald just absolutely taking off the rest of the way and taking the starting job, which I don't see either of those, unfortunately, really happening. I think that the Giants are they have a plan A and they have a plan B. Um, Nick Ahmed, I think is starting to play himself into a lock of being on the roster one way or the other. I do think the Giants want to have a veteran that can play shortstop on the active roster, on the 26 man. So I do believe Nick Ahmed is going to be one of the guys on the roster, whether he ends up being the utility guy or the actual starting shortstop. I see him as one of the likely players on the roster filling in one of those spots. Just because I don't see the Giants as wanting to have 2 young players, one starting and one as a utility, especially when they've made it clear that they are actively trying to win right now. With a lot of the moves they've made, I've begged them to pick a direction. They have picked a direction. They are trying to win in 2024, which I appreciate that. So I do think Nick Ahmed is going to be one of the players there. Now that said, I mean, yes, he's 5 for 8 with 2 home runs. He's been red hot in Arizona so far, but this is a guy with a track record. As he at no point in his career has ever even posted a league average season at the plate. So I would caution everybody to pump the brakes a little bit and think this guy is going to just run away with the starting job and go into the year and just hold off all comers for a whole season. This is a guy that his best career average best average in a season was in the COVID season, hit 266. His best numbers in a full season are still 2019. He hit 254 with uh, he hit 254 with, I believe, 19 home runs and 82 RBIs. But even with that, you're looking at a guy that still only posted a 91 WRC plus, meaning he was still 9% worse than league average. And if you look down through his yearly numbers, he's had, and I'm not going to count his rookie year because he only had 75 plate appearances, but he's posted a 66 WRC plus, a 42 WRC plus, 76, 85, 91, 96 in the COVID shortened season. That's his best one. And then 66, 93, 51. At the end of the day, he is what he is. Like, we can get all our hopes up and everything, but at the end of the day, if they go with him, it's just because they purely feel that none of the young players are ready to start, and they're just going to lean in on the defense. He's going to hit ninth. Nice thing is he keeps the strikeouts below about 20%. So he strikes out a little less than league average. He doesn't draw a ton of walks. He doesn't hit for much average. He's just going to be a glove, which he's an elite glove. Him and Brandon Crawford went back and forth for gold gloves for a little while there. He's won 2 of them. He is a really strong glove. It slipped a little bit in recent years. Most of that had to do with his throwing. His arm is supposedly fully healthy now. He feels like he's got the pop that was missing. So if they're going with him, they're going for defense. Like, they're not, or let's temper the expectations of a 5 for 8 with 2 homers. He's not a great hitter, and he's probably not going to turn into one at age 33 or whatever he is now. So that's kind of that's one scenario I can see would be him just outright winning the job. Everybody, and has more to do with the young players at that point. And then if he does win the starting job, I think it's likely that either Casey Schmidt or Tyler Fitzgerald will be kept around as a utility guy. I do think one of the young players is going to be on the roster regardless. So you'd be looking at one of those two. And I think Fitzgerald probably has the inside track just because of his ability to play outfield as well. And with the Jorge Soler um, signing and him being a full-time DH, the Giants are only going to realistically be able to keep 4 outfielders. So having a guy like Fitzgerald that could go out there and play the outfield. I know he's only played center, but if you can play center, you should be able to play left or right. Quite frankly, they should be able to move him out there in a pinch if they need to. So that's the kind of one of the likely scenarios. The other one, and I know he's struggled and he's got 5 strikeouts and 11 plate appearances, and he's not hitting right now. But the other likely scenario is going to be Luciano gets going at some point, and he is does end up becoming the starter with Nick Ahmed being kept as the backup. So that's the other scenario. Now, a lot of people are going to look at Nick Ahmed's numbers, and this is a situation where I don't think Luciano necessarily has to have some insane spring where he, has better numbers than Nick Ahmed. Marco Luciano is notoriously a slow starter. And anytime he's missed time or he's coming back, spring training, always struggles. Beginning of the seasons, usually struggles. Comes back from injuries, struggles. I don't know if it's a timing issue. I don't know what it is, but he always is a slow starter and takes time to get going. Now, he's going to need to get going at some point in spring if he wants to be the everyday starter on the San Francisco, roster and not in Sacramento. But that said, if he does get going and he does have, a hot couple games, all of a sudden, because, it's such a small sample size, he could go 3 for his next 4 and he's hitting 250. So it's not, or get 3 straight hits and he's hitting 250 all of a sudden. So it's not like it's irreparable damage to his numbers right now in spring training. But if he does get going and he shows that he's handling it and he's improving and getting better and better and better, at that point, I think the Giants will be willing to, put him out there as the starter and let him go through his struggles and do his thing. He's a guy that he's not going to get kept up as a utility guy or anything. He's either going to start every day in San Francisco or he's going to start every day in Sac. And that's kind of where I view it as. Ahmed's going to be on the roster. And then it's either going to be Luciano starting with Ahmed backing him up, or either of the kids backing up Ahmed. So either Schmidt or Fitzgerald, I should say. So we'll see kind of what happens. As I said, there's 3.5 weeks left. Luciano, I'd imagine now that he's back and playing, and he was dealing with a little bit of hamstring tightness, he's going to get a lot of run. He's going to get a lot of at bats, and he'll kind of prove one way or the other if he belongs as a starter or if he needs the time in Sacramento. And it's totally fine if he needs the time in Sacramento. I don't think that we should look at him as a bust or anything like that. This is a guy with 123 plate appearances between AAA and the majors. That's it. And he's 22 years old. So it might not be the worst thing in the world if you send Nick Ahmed down to, or if you have Nick Ahmed start the season as a starting shortstop, you lean in on the defense and just give it a couple months. And if Marco Luciano can get 200 at bats down in AAA and he starts kicking the door down, then you bring him up and have him start. Nobody's going to be begging for Nick Ahmed to start the full season if Luciano's hitting in AAA. So, and his track record, I know a lot of people box score scout. They look at what Luciano's done in the minors and they go, oh, he's never impressed at any level. And you just have to dig deeper than that, because his track record is he has figured out whatever level he's at when given time. And, rookie ball, he was great. Single A, he had a very good season. I think he had like a 136 WRC plus, so he was well above average as an 17, 18-year-old. And then high A, he got the call up to high A. He struggled. They brought him back to high A, and he did really well. And then he got injured, of course, which that's his biggest kryptonite so far in his career. And then Double A, first 30 games, he was hitting about $156. He looked well overmatched. So, and figures it out. Hits 309 with a 984 OPS for his last 27 games in Double A, and gets the call up so a lot of people look at his Double A numbers and they go, oh, he only hit 228. It's like, yeah, because they called him up before his numbers could fully recover. Like, he was still a 115 WRC plus. So with 30 atrocious games, he was still 15% better than league average in Double A. So something to keep in mind. In AAA, he didn't have enough plate appearances to really, have a strong opinion there. He showed up to AAA, hit well. He carried over the momentum from AA. As we said, he gets going and he's really good. And then they gave him the quick call up to the majors, sent him back, and he got hurt. So, and then he really struggled after coming back from injury. So that's his track record. He figures out the levels he's at, but he's also an incredibly slow starter. So we'll see how Luciano ends up doing the rest of the way. I think everyone needs to relax a little bit on that. He didn't lose the job in a week. Ahmed hasn't won the job in a week. There's a lot of baseball left in spring. But either way, no matter what route they end up going, I don't think there's a real negative there. I don't think we should panic if Ahmed is the starting shortstop going into the season. And I don't think we should be panicking if Luciano is struggling through spring, because that's his track record. Just give him time. He'll figure it out. So if you like the content, subscribe to the channel. The growth has been crazy in the last 3 or 4 days. You guys have been subscribing like crazy. So I appreciate all that support. Tell me your guys' thoughts, comment. Tell me if there's any other videos you guys want me to post, any topics you guys want me to go over. If there's any, any ideas you guys might have for the regular season on things you want me to try and do weekly. The one thing I have kind of set in stone that I'm really planning on doing during the regular season is I'm going to do a minor league update, kind of how guys are doing down there. It's going to be mainly focused on the top prospects. But I'll give shout outs to other guys as well throughout the season. Those videos will go out on Mondays during the regular season, because minor leagues, they typically play Tuesday through Sunday. So I'm going to give them the week and I'll post those on Mondays, as well as we're going to be talking obviously a ton of Giants, big league baseball club. So that's the one idea I've had so far. Tell me your guys' thoughts. But other than that, I will probably be posting again tomorrow. We'll see how the game goes today. Webby's on the mound. You got a lot of starters in the lineup, including a couple of young kids. You got Luciano and Matos are going to play today. So we'll see how they do. Facing a familiar face, Jacob Junis. So hopefully they can give him a not so warm welcome today. But until next time, we'll Well, have a good one.